Have you ever wondered how a real dynasty is built? It's not just luck, and it's not some single stroke of genius. It's a relentless, super detailed philosophy. So today, we're going to dive into the leadership blueprint of the legendary coach Bill Walsh, a guy who believed that if you perfect the process, well, the score will take care of itself.
To really get the scale of what he accomplished, you have to see where he started. We're talking 1978. The San Francisco 49ers weren't just losing games. They were an absolute mess, a totally demoralized, dysfunctional organization, basically the laughingstock of the entire league. So Walsh wasn't just hired to coach a team. He was hired to perform a resurrection.
And that leads to the big question, right? How in the world did one man take the absolute bottom of the barrel team in the NFL and forge a dynasty that would dominate for years to come? The answer wasn't some magic bullet. It was a complete, radical shift in focus. But a transformation like this doesn't just happen overnight. It was actually born from immense pressure and a moment where he almost reached his breaking point, a moment that shaped his entire approach to leadership. Walsh had a really unique perspective on the stress of leadership. For him, losing sleep or feeling totally consumed by the job, those weren't signs you were failing. He saw them as proof of deep commitment. He honestly believed that the anxiety, the sleepless nights, that was just the price you paid when you were striving for the absolute highest standards. So, early on in his career with the 49ers, a really crushing, painful loss to the Miami Dolphins pushed him right to the edge. He was filled with regret, terrified of professional failure, and he actually considered resigning. But instead of quitting, he took that haunting defeat and used it as fuel. He chose resilience and decided he was going to rebuild everything, starting with the very soul of the organization. And this, right here, is where his genius truly starts to shine. His first priority wasn't winning the Super Bowl. Nope. It was establishing what he called his standard of performance, and that became the bedrock for everything that followed.
So what was the standard of performance? It was all about focusing on the inputs, not the results. Think of it as a detailed code of conduct that applied to everyone, and I mean everyone, from the star quarterback all the way to the receptionist answering the phones. Excellence in every single tiny detail, that became the new goal.
And listen, this wasn't some vague, fluffy mission statement on a poster. Look at these components. We're talking a high work ethic, total accountability, professionalism, and real respect for every single person. It was a massive cultural overhaul that demanded meticulous attention to the smallest actions, because he knew that's where greatness really begins. This quote gets right to the heart of his belief system. You don't just win a championship and then suddenly start acting like one. No way. You first have to build the behaviors, the mindset, and the standards of a champion. The culture has to come before the results. Victory is just a consequence of that high standard, not the other way around. Okay, so with that cultural foundation set in stone, Walsh applied the exact same meticulous approach to his strategy. He believed in planning so thoroughly that success became almost inevitable. Walsh saw two completely different approaches. On one side, you've got the chaos of improvising under pressure, what he called flying by the seat of your pants. And on the other, you have the clarity and confidence that comes from executing a well-designed script. He chose to control the game, not just react to it. So how did he do it? Well, first, innovate. He famously created the West Coast offense, a whole system of short, precise passes, not for some superstar quarterback, but for a guy with a limited arm, turning a weakness into a revolutionary strength. Second, plan. He would literally script the first 25 plays of every single game, taking away the uncertainty and allowing his team to execute calmly. And third, execute, by teaching and drilling and teaching some more until the team could carry out that plan with absolute precision. But of course, strategy and culture, they don't mean a thing without the right people. And for Walsh, this meant prioritizing something that a lot of leaders tend to overlook: character. Walsh was so aware of what he called the talent trap. He had this one player, Cedric Hardman, who was incredibly gifted but had a really negative attitude. Walsh knew that kind of personality, no matter how skilled, acts like a poison. It just drags down the entire team's performance and morale. And then, on the complete flip side, you had guys like Ronnie Lott. Lott's unwavering commitment and high character didn't just make him a great player. He was a force multiplier. His attitude literally elevated the performance and the spirit of every single person on that team. That was the kind of person Walsh built his dynasty around. Walsh had this belief that the success of the whole organization could be determined by the people at the margins, what he called the bottom 20%. He argued that if those individuals start to feel disconnected or unimportant, their unhappiness can spread through the whole place like a cancer. It just reinforces his belief that every single person truly matters. So, okay, we've looked at the culture, the planning, and the people. Let's bring it all together to the ultimate payoff, the philosophy that gives this whole thing its name. And here it is. This is the final, most powerful lesson from Bill Walsh. Stop obsessing over the final score. Just stop. Instead, pour all of your energy into perfecting the process. Get the culture right, make your planning meticulous, and fill your organization with high-character people. If you can do that, the wins, the success, the outcome you're looking for, it'll just follow as a natural consequence. Think about that. Even in the absolute highest pressure moments of his career, Walsh found a sense of peace. Why? Because he knew he'd done the work. He'd perfected the process. He trusted that the score would take care of itself. And, with 3 Super Bowl championships, it absolutely did. So that kind of leaves us with a final question to think about. What's the score that you're chasing in your own life or your career? And maybe more importantly, what's the standard of performance in your daily habits, in your attitude, in your attention to detail that you need to establish so that your score can take care of itself?